Workers in Quebec are now the first to feel the effects of the new U.S. tariffs on lumber exports. Resolute Forest Products has told its staff it will be cutting shifts at 7 sawmills and delaying the start of forest operations, a move that will affect more than 1,200 workers. Joining us now to take a look at what this really means for one of Canada's largest industries is Derek Nighbor, CEO of the Forest Productions Association of Canada. He is in Ottawa this morning. Thanks so much for talking with us this morning.
Thanks, Lindsey.
All right, let's get to it. Resolute has started work stoppages, shift reductions. Do we know if these duties on our lumber will lead to permanent closures?
I think it's too early to tell right now. This is a preliminary duty that came down a couple of weeks ago. We're anticipating a second duty on June the 23rd. So I think it's a bit too early to tell in terms of what the impacts are going to be. But there's no doubt that this is posing challenges for Canada's lumber sector.
And there was talk, Derek, that it would only be small and medium-sized companies hit by this. But Resolute, it's no small company. So do you think we're going to see more of the big operations at risk?
Well, I think whether you're big or small, the challenges are the same. The larger companies will have deeper pockets, but different companies are going to respond to this very differently. At the end of the day, for us, these duties, we believe, are unfounded. We believe that we're right. This is bordering on the definition of insanity. We've had the Americans do this same play. This is the 5th time now in 34 years, and we've been proven right every time. So we're quite confident at the end of the day that the Americans will be proven wrong again with these duties.
What about, let's talk about south of the border. Does our lumber industry have allies in the U.S.?
Yeah, and this is the irony of this move by the U.S. This is a loser for U.S. consumers, and some of our biggest supporters are in the U.S. in the home building industry, because they're seeing now a bit of an uptick in the U.S. economy, which means an uptick in housing starts, which means that if you're driving up the cost of lumber by another 20%, you're costing American home buyers and home renovators thousands of more dollars. So that's a message we're bringing to Washington and to states across the U.S. I know this week there were a group of Quebec mayors in Washington delivering that same message. So we're really encouraging the government and municipalities to take that Team Canada approach in bringing our message to the U.S. to remind them of why this is a loser for them.
And most of our lumber production comes from rural communities in BC, Quebec, New Brunswick, Ontario as well. How much do these communities rely on these foresting jobs that could be at risk?
Yeah, we're looking at about 200 plus communities across the country that we would say are forest dependent. These are communities like Kenora, Ontario, Val d'Or, Quebec, Quesnel, BC. These are good jobs in these communities where there aren't a lot of other job options in a lot of cases. So that's the call to action for government to ensure that they're doing everything to support our sector. And we think the key to success here, this is about the long game. We need to continue to transform our sector so we're not looking back 5 or 10 years from now, facing the same problems.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to ask you about, 5, 10 years from now, if this is not dealt with by the provincial and federal governments. I mean, what specifically do you want them to do so that we're not dealing with this in 10 years' time?
Well, I think if we do see any job losses or shifts cut, we want to ensure that the appropriate supports are in the communities around EI, not too dissimilar from what we saw during the oil and gas challenges of a couple of years ago in Alberta. We also want to see, additional support for skills training and retraining for our younger and older workers. But longer term, this is a sector that's, we have the most certified forests in the country in Canada. For every tree that's harvested, 3 are planted. That's the law in Canada. We have one of the most sustainable industries. So we want to continue to transform it, get into bioproducts, get into new innovative products, grow in new markets in Asia and the Middle East. So we see huge potential for the sector, but this is a challenge we're going to have to ride out. And as I said, we're confident at the end of the day, Canada will be proven right again in the courts.
We'll be watching this very, very closely. Derek Nighbor, CEO of the Forest Products Association of Canada. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.